I was a writer. I wrote books. I write now, but nobody knows. Nobody can see me now. Something strange has happened to me. I will tell you about it. In January, I wanted to write a very long book. So I left my home and I found a little room. This is a good room for a writer, I thought. I'll write my book here. It was a little room, but I liked it. It was very quiet. I began to work on my book and I was happy. Then things began to happen. Strange things. One day, I was at my desk with my pen in my hand. Suddenly, I thought, I want a coffee and I haven't got any. I'll have to go to the shop. When I came back, I looked for the pen. It wasn't on the table. I looked on the floor, on my chair, and then on the table again. It wasn't there. I don't understand it, I thought. That night, another strange thing happened. I was in bed and the room was very quiet. Suddenly, I opened my eyes. What was that? I wondered. Then I heard a voice, a man's voice. Who's there? I cried. There was no answer, and there was nobody in the room. I couldn't understand it, and I was afraid. What can I do? I thought. What was that? After that, strange things happened every day, but I had to finish my book, so I stayed there. The room was very small. There were not many things in it, only a bed, a table, and a chair. And there was a mirror on the wall. It was a very old mirror, and I liked it. And then one day, I looked in the mirror, and I saw him, the other man. It wasn't me. This man had a beard, but I didn't. I shut my eyes and looked again. This time, I saw my face in the mirror. That didn't happen, I thought. I was wrong. There wasn't another man. I went for a walk that day, and I didn't work on my book. I didn't want to be in the room. I didn't want to see or hear strange things. At night, I went home again. The room was very quiet. I looked in the mirror and saw my face. But I wasn't happy. I went to bed, but I couldn't sleep. I'll leave here tomorrow, I thought. And after that, I slept. But then another strange thing happened. The other man stood by my bed and spoke to me. You will never leave here, he said. You will stay with me. And then I opened my eyes. I was very cold and afraid. I'll leave now, I thought. I can't stay here for one more minute. Quickly, I put my things in a case. I wanted to go. Now, I couldn't forget the man, so I was afraid. But afraid of what? I didn't know. When my clothes were in the case, I thought, I'll leave the room now. I looked around the room, and I also looked in the mirror again. And then I suddenly felt colder and more afraid. I couldn't see the other man in the mirror. Why? Because he wasn't there. But I couldn't see my face in the mirror. There was no face. Why not? I tried to shout, but no sound came. I had no voice. And then I saw him. I saw the other man. The man with the beard. but he wasn't in the mirror. He was at the table with my pen in his hand. He wrote my book with my pen. I was angry and I tried to speak, but I couldn't because I had no voice. The other man didn't speak. He smiled and wrote. Suddenly, there was a sound at the door, and I heard a friend's voice. "Are you there?" My friend called. "I want to see you." I was very happy then. My friend will help me, I thought, but I couldn't move. The other man went to the door and opened it. "Come in," he said to my friend. "Come and see my room. I'm writing my book." My friend came into the room, but he didn't see me. He smiled at the other man. My friend said, "Oh, you have a beard now?" Again and again, I tried to speak, but I couldn't. My friend couldn't see me. He couldn't hear me. He only saw the other man. That is my story. The other man has my room, and he also has my face and my voice. He will finish my book too. But the other man doesn't know one thing. I can write. I can tell my story, and I'm telling it to you. Where do you need to go? Sam blinked for a second as he flopped into the back seat of the taxi. Strange thing to say. Usually, any other taxi driver would say, "Where to?" Or "Where do you want to go?" "Berkeley Street, just by the garage." Sam rested his head back and closed his eyes for a second. He couldn't wait to get home and go to bed. These long days were killing him. He opened his eyes again. The taxi sat still and motionless on the dark, deserted street. Sam leaned forward a little. Driver, in the front, a dark figure, his two big hands on the steering wheel. A cap pulled down low over his eyes. "Berkeley Street, just by the "I heard you the first time," said the driver. "Okay, it's been a long day," said Sam. "I just need to, and I'll ask you again, where do you need to go?" Sam blinked. What was this? "I just told you." Twice, in fact. The driver stared ahead. The car engine rumbled beneath them. "No, you told me where you want to go. That's not where you need to go." Sam's eyes fixed on the back of the driver's head. He could only make out the man's jacket collar pulled up around his neck, the cap pulled down to his ears. He could not see one feature of the man in front. "All right, thanks anyway." Sam grabbed his bag and pulled at the door handle, but the door didn't open. He yanked at the handle a couple of times, but the door remained closed. Child-proof locks, to stop a kid from opening the door, or anyone for that matter. "Listen, let me out. I'll get another cab somewhere else." The driver didn't move. "Tell me where you need to go." "I need to get out of this taxi," said Sam, "before I call the police." No movement from the driver. Sam pulled out his phone and swiped the screen. Nothing. He swiped again. He tapped the screen, maybe out of juice. He could have sworn he had a full battery earlier. He swiped again, but nothing. "Just let me out here, please," he said to the driver. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." The driver spoke again. "Tell me where you need to go." each word emphasized. Sam looked out the side window. Opposite, a row of shops, all closed. He turned in his seat to look behind him and saw the street disappearing into the darkness. Not a soul around. No one. "Look, I'm sorry, but I don't know what this is about. If you want my money, I've got some in my wallet. You can have that." And the driver tilted his head. "Where do you need to go?" Sam stared ahead. Through the window of the front of the taxi, he could make out the deserted street. The lights on either side illuminating the sidewalk with conical shapes. He turned, panic flooding through his veins, and yanked at the door handle. Pulled at it several times until it snapped off in his hand. He banged at the window with his fists. "Let me out of here. Let me out right now." The driver didn't flinch, his body rigid in the front seat. Sam fell back into the rear seat, his breath coming out of him in short bursts. He blinked away the tears that filled his eyes, wiped away the salty sting from his eyelids. "What do you want?" he said, his voice coming out in a hoarse whisper. "Where do you need to go?" "I need to go home," said Sam. "I need to get home and sleep. I've been working all day, and I am tired. I need to go home." "That's where you want to go," said the driver. "But think carefully. Where do you need to go?" Sam opened his mouth to speak, but the driver raised his right hand to stop him. "No, think carefully now. Where do you really need to go tonight? What is the one place that you need to go?" Sam sat frozen in the back. Where did he need to go? He thought about it and could not think of one possible answer. He needed to be home. That was where he needed to be. He wasn't tired. He was exhausted. He needed to get inside his own apartment, have a shower, a cup of hot tea, and then bed. He needed sleep. That was what he needed. But he could not speak. The car engine hummed beneath him, and the driver sat in front, unmoving. Then it came to him. Sam's mouth fell open. His face dropped and his eyes closed. That was where he needed to be. The car engine purred, and the driver sat still in the front. Sam opened his mouth, but no words came. The driver cleared his throat. "Where do you need to go?" Sam raised his eyes to the rear view mirror. He could just make out the driver's own eyes. Steely gray, no emotion inside them. Sam leaned forward and whispered the address to the driver. The driver nodded, put the car into gear, and slowly drove down the street. Sam stared outside. The cold gray windows he had walked past 1,000 times on his way to the office. Windows that he may never see again. Colleagues in his office he may never talk to again. But he had to go. It was where he needed to go, and he had put it off for so long. Reading comprehension questions for you. Please try to answer them in the comment box. Who is the main character of the story? Where does the story take place? Why is Sam taking a taxi? Where does Sam want to go? Thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe for more videos. Press the bell icon and select all to get notifications.